Station 103.9 Low FM. Of course, your dial is still tuned in, and this is the spanking new program, The Legit Therapist. Yes, we've now been joined by Dr. Jibs, yes, Dr. Olainka Jibuna, who is a well-renowned consultant psychiatrist with the Freudian Center, and she'll be delivering a lot of value in conversations surrounding mental health on this program, The Legit Therapist. When we went on the break, of course, Mr. Wale was telling me how amazing the topic we'll be touching on today is, and I just, want him to give us a bit of a background as to what we're talking about here today.
All right, good morning, people of Lagos. Yeah, thank you for tuning into The Legit Therapist. And like she said, Dr. Jibs is here now, and we'll be discussing the mental health bill. Dr. Jibs is going to give us more details on that, please.
Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Lagos. My name is Dr. Olainka Jibuna, and today we'll be focusing on the Mental Health Law 2022. It's a recent law that has been passed by the Buhari government, and we're so excited about this law because we've been pushing for it for many years. Nigeria for a long time has been under the Lunacy Act of 1958, which was drafted by our colonial masters from many years ago. And that very old-fashioned law had a lot of derogatory terms in terms of mental health. It did not allow people with mental health issues to have rights or claim any rights, and it didn't even give room for funding or for mental health care services. And over the years, as healthcare professionals, we've wanted an upgrade because other countries have, for a long time, other countries have moved forward. They've moved past this. Even Ghana has moved past the Lunacy Act. So we've been pushing for this for many, many years, and we're finally glad, that in December 2022, the Buhari government signed this bill into law.
Kudos.
So today we'll be just teasing out some of the important things from the bill, from the law, sorry. We'll be talking a bit about some of the important details in the law, and we'll also put some emphasis on the Lagos State Mental Health Law, which has been in existence since 2018. And we'll just do a slight comparison between both.
Before you go on, Dr. James, what is worth celebrating? What are we supposed to cheer for,
Okay, so for me, I would say one of the biggest things in this law is the fact that people with mental health issues now have rights. Okay. From the Lunacy Act, we looked at mental health as strictly madness, the person with a mental health issue is a mad person. But we now know that no one is immune from mental health issues, because in terms of mental health issues, we have a wide variation of disorders that can be classified as mental health conditions, from things like depression to anxiety to PTSD, phobias, postpartum depression. So many conditions fall under mental health issues. So it's not a case of the madman on the streets and you're just focused on that, which was what existed before. But now we're saying that if you've had depression in the past, if you're someone that has suffered from postpartum depression, or you have some other health issues, now you have a right to seek for treatment. You have a right to access quality care. You have a right to work. You have a right to be treated fairly. It even says in the bill that because your landlord now knows that you've had a mental health issue in the past, does not warrant that he gives you a quick notice or asks you to leave his house. Things like substance abuse are also classified as mental health issues. So alcohol use disorders or substance use disorders like weed and all the codeine and so many hard drugs out there. People that use substances also are covered by this law as well. So you have a landlord that owns a property, and he has maybe a young man that he sees that smokes cannabis every now and then, and he says, I'm going to evict you from my property because I don't want a young man that smokes cannabis. Now that I'm not supporting the use of hard drugs, but I'm just saying that young man now has the right to say, sir, because I smoke weed twice a week, not warrant. As long as I'm able to pay your rent, I should be able to live in your property.
Yeah, okay. So something that struck me while you're talking was that there will be more funding, we've heard this several times in the past where the government is, they will provide this fund, there's going to be a mental health fund, but nothing really happens. No one funds those activities. So what do you think will be different this time around?
So over the years, funding for mental health has been extremely low. We say for the health budget, about 3% of the health budget goes to mental health. And the majority of that fund goes to government psychiatric facilities. So there's nothing that goes to the private mental health sector, nothing goes to prevention of mental health issues or even community care. We're hoping that now that we have been able at least to put a foot in terms of the law, in terms of the legislation, we can now push. That means this is not the end of the story. There's now the next step to push for more funding for mental health care, to push for more attention. The bill, the law is saying that let us now prioritize mental health the way we prioritize physical health. The Nigerian healthcare system prioritizes physical health. We pump a lot of money into hypertension and pregnant women and children. If you go across the country, you will see women and child hospitals and things like that. But we're not pumping money into prevention, mental health prevention, stress management, community care, halfway homes, things that help people have better mental health care.
So is this going to make it mandatory for government to integrate mental health services at all level of health delivery?
Definitely. So with more attention to mental health care, we can now segment the services. We can now make sure that services are provided the way they should be provided. When the way it has been in the past is everyone that has a mental health care, even if something as minute as a phobia, you're afraid of cockroaches, and your fear of cockroaches is so extreme that your doctor says you need to be treated, you would end up in the psychiatric hospital. You open a file in Yaba left or Arrow because you are afraid of cockroaches. Meanwhile, basic things like that should be treated at the primary healthcare level. You should be able to just walk into any health center and see a healthcare professional in the health center and say, "Oh, I'm afraid of cockroaches," and they should be able to know what to do. But as it exists now, if you walk into a health center with that, they say, "Please move to Yaba left because I really don't know what to do." So now, hopefully, people at the primary, secondary, and tertiary healthcare centers will be trained on how to manage small, minute, little cases of mental health issues, and only the severe cases will now end up at the tertiary institutions like Yaba Left and the others.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking about landlords, what other category do the mental health bill protect us from?
Okay, so protects us in terms of housing. It also protects we the citizens in terms of work. So employers do not have the right to lay off their staff because they learned that the person has a mental health issue. Past
or present?
Both.
Okay.
So at some point in the course of the job, the employer realizes or finds out that the person has had a mental health issue in the past. That does not give the employer the right to. The person should be treated the way they would treat someone that doesn't have a mental health issue. So you will rate the person, you will judge the person based on their performance, not based on the fact that you heard that they've had a mental health issue or they're currently going through a mental health issue.
I once had a colleague that had mood swings. It was unsafe to walk around such a person. So what would the employer do in such a case?
When did mood swing become a crime? Even employers have mood swings. Your bosses have mood swings. It is a very, very common thing. We women have mood swings. Look at our periods. Once our periods are advancing or once you're ovulating, you find women become very cranky. It's very common. It's so that's not a reason to say you want to lay off the person. That's even all the more reason why now employers have to engage in what we call the employee assistance program, where they pay for their staff to access mental health care. It's similar to the HMOs, but in this case they will put down some funds to EAP organizations so that their staff, whenever they have some psychological stressors, they can walk into a clinic and speak to trained counselors, trained psychologists, psychiatrists like myself, that can help them through that phase of their lives.
Okay, but let's stay within the workplace. Let's say your mental health issues is affecting your job. You can't perform optimally anymore. You're not just getting things right.
Okay.
So what would the employer do in such a case, or what would HR do?
So going by this bill, this law, your staff now has a right to say, HR, I don't think I'm feeling very optimal. I think I'm feeling very stressed. Can I take that my annual leave now? I initially wanted to go on annual leave in December, but I'm feeling extremely stressed. This is not a good time. Things are happening on the home. I just lost my dad, I need to go and bury my father. I need to do this. I think I need a break for my mental health now. HR now with the law should be able to weigh that and consider that and allow it. Because tomorrow HR might be in that same situation and might need that care. So we're saying let us prioritize mental health care even for our staff, so we can give them that break. It's just a break so that they can recuperate and come back to work.
Okay. Yeah. But like any law bills, there are thousands of pages. The average Nigerian is not going to sit down and read it. We just know this law exists. We leave that problem for the lawyers to read. What part of the law, when you were going through it, struck you and said, oh, this is beautiful, or I would like people to know more about this?
Okay, so for me, some of the very interesting things I found were, in terms of substance use, people that abuse substances, the law now tends towards rehabilitation as opposed to punishment. So in the past, it was more like, oh, you find someone that abuses drugs, punish them, lock them up. But you lock them up, you jail them for 3 years, they come out, they continue to use because you haven't properly rehabilitated them. So the law now says, you find someone abusing substance, instead of letting the person continue with that cycle of drug use, get them rehabilitated and then reintegrated back into society. Another interesting thing for me in the law was the National Suicide Prevention Policy. The law is asking for a national suicide prevention policy. The US has led by example. Now in the US, aside from the 911 you call in emergencies, you can call 988 if you're feeling suicidal. So that line is just dedicated to suicide, which we know it's a mental health emergency. So anyone feeling suicidal picks up that phone, and they have someone on the other side of the line that can help them through that phase or through that moment, because usually it's just a phase that the person is passing through. So for us in Nigeria, since we have asked for it in the law, we should implement it, get a hotline across the country and help people that might be going through one mental health situation or the other. Another very controversial aspect of the law, which I've heard over the radio over the past few weeks, has been the in terms of voluntary versus involuntary care. People can seek mental health care voluntarily or involuntarily. Some people walk into the facility and say, oh, I don't feel optimal, I feel this, or I abuse certain substances and I feel I need help. They walk in themselves, you treat them, and then they go back home, which you see in physical health because you walk in and see your doctor.
Clearly.
However, there's now a case for involuntary care. You have a person who is exhibiting, maybe not doing optimally well, or abusing substances to an extent where they become a burden or a problem to their family members or those around them. And people around them can no longer cope with, they become unmanageable to those around them, and then family members now want a solution to the problem. In those kind of situations, it is allowed for you to bring the person to the facility as an involuntary patient, and then the caregivers sign consent on behalf of that individual, because we say someone that abuses substances in a way has poor judgment. There's a shift in judgment. They might not be seeing things the way other people are, because if you abuse substances to an extent where you no longer work, your wife or your children have abandoned you, you're not able to keep up with your rent, things are getting out of control, but you continue to use that substance irrespective of what is going on around you, then we can say that judgment is impaired in that kind of situation. So in those kind of situations, the family, someone with better judgment, can stand and sign consent on behalf of such an individual. That is in terms of involuntary care. And the law also says that the care might be involuntary at the start, but the individual can at some point decide to opt in for a voluntary version. So that consent that was signed involuntarily by family members at some point can now become voluntary once judgment improves. Another controversial aspect of the law has been in terms of restraints or no restraints. One of the reasons why this law is extremely important is because across the country, we've devised means of treating mental health care because of how archaic things have been.
Yeah, some spiritual moves.
Yes. So if you go to certain parts of the country, you will find certain centers where there have been people tied to a tree for many years because they have been exhibiting certain mental health issues and they feel there's some demon. They're demon possessed, and they should be tied to a tree and flogged until the demon surrenders. So once the demon does not surrender after many years, you find that the person is tied to that tree for years. The person is tied to that tree for years. They are deprived of food, basic amenities.
Yeah.
They're deprived of so many things just because they feel they are demonized or they are demonic or stuff like that, you know. So with this law, we're advocating for proper mental health care. You know, I've been in mental health care for 16 years now, and I've seen people heal people come in and out of the Freudian Center every day, get well, they go, they come, they go, they come, they go. So it's something we treat every day. We know it's easily, depression is easily treatable, anxiety is easily, even psychosis is easily treatable. These are things we treat every day, but these people do not know. You know, they go with this spiritual, you know, under the spiritual cover, and they think everything is about demons and this and
but I'm curious now. Tell me more about recovery time. You know,
recovery is different for each individual. But before I move on to your question, I was talking about restraints.
Restraint, yes.
Those people being restrained, chained to trees and chained to all kinds of things, all in the name of treatment.
Yes.
Now the law is against that.
Okay.
The law says even if they have to be restrained, there has to be minimal restraints for very short periods of time. So if a person becomes, if there's a situation when the person is intoxicated or, you know, beyond reason, you can minimally restrain for a very short period of time before you give medications or chemical restraints to ease that person. But they're no longer allowed to tie people to trees or objects, or deprive them of food. Some people get locked in a room for years, you know, they defecate and urinate on themselves for many years. So things like that are no longer allowed. We can actually bring in the lawyers when we see situations like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So speaking about recovery time, because you know that from the point you brought out where people are tied up till the demon leaves, you know, I'm just wondering what the average medical recovery time for situation.
So recovery is disease specific or disorder specific. So for example, malaria has its own recovery. You say take malaria drug for 3 days and you'll be fine. You know, if you have an infection, doctor will say use your antibiotics for 1 week and you'll be fine.
Yes.
So now it's in terms of mental health issues, which we have a wide range of mental health conditions. Healing depends on the condition, the individual, you know, the treatment received, if you have received the right kind of treatment or not, you know, the elimination of psychosocial stressors. So mental health conditions are brought on by certain psychological or social triggers or stressors. You know, the ability to eliminate those stressors or triggers would also contribute to the healing time. So it's not, I can't give you a specific time frame, but I'll just say it's based on case by case study. You know, each case is different. We analyze each case and treat according to the peculiarities of that case.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jibs. At this point, we'll take a music break and we'll be back. Don't change that down.
I could. I'm stronger now with this moment. In the world, paid my dues. Got plenty of scars, but nothing to lose. Tonight, I'm on top of the world, in front of the crowd. Smoking in the air, look at me now. I'm on top of the world, in front of the crowd. Standing up, standing up, standing up. Oh, Africa, standing up. To a nation, to a
This is Law FM 103.9.
This is the Legit Therapist on Law FM 103.9.
Okay, people of Lagos, welcome back to the Legit Therapist with Dr. Jibs. At this point, you can now call in to ask Dr. Jibs any question, or if you want clarification on anything she's said, you can call in on 0703 2277 338. I repeat, 0703 2277 338 or 0909 555 1039. All right, Dr. Jibs, nice to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you.
The last few minutes have been an eye-opener for me. I've learned a few things, and I'm hoping that before the end of the show, I'll learn more. So, back to where we were. You're telling us more about, and how this affects the common man.
But this our show is so serious today. We're just talking law on Law FM. We're talking law stuff. Let me just throw a few questions back at you, Mr. Wale. What's your understanding of mental health? What do you think mental health is?
Wow.
Is mental health is it about just the person you see roaming the streets with picking trash, or is there more to mental health than that? What do you think?
I went to school, Dr. Jibs. And I have friends, and okay, we have a caller.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Please, your name and where you calling from, please.
My name is Busayo. I'm calling from my baby.
You said Busayo?
Yes.
All right. Your question for Dr. Jibs, please.
My question is that
Hello,
in
Busayo.
the place where person is working.
Hello. Okay.
She said.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Busayo, go on. I can hear you.
In a place where somebody is working.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Busayo.
So, they did not used to give us privilege that maybe when we have something, coincidence, something happen to us there, and we demand for them to give us chance to go out and rest. They did not used to give it to us. They said no.
Okay, so you're saying that when you're working.
Whereas we are casual.
Okay, yes, I get. Okay, as a casual worker, where you work, when you say you need time to rest, they don't give you time to rest. So
they may say before said they didn't give. Now they do give 1 day, 2 days.
Okay, Dr. Jibs, you want to elaborate on it? So she's saying that when where she works, they wouldn't let you rest.
Yes.
They keep using you till you drop dead. Work till you die. So this affects the mental health of the average worker. Clearly, I understand that the labor law provides 12 days sick leave mandatory, but you have to back it with doctor's notes. Some companies have annual leave on their employment letters. The employment letter supersedes the labor law when it comes to annual leave, but the labor law stipulates a minimum of 6 days, which is grossly inadequate. We're talking about a law that was passed in 1978. So it's outdated. So what will the average person like Busayo do when they feel their mental health is affected and the employer says, work, I pay you?
You know, the interesting thing about this life is the only reward for hard work is more work.
Okay.
You know, the more hardworking you are, the more work you get, which is a good thing though. For us now as mental health advocates and being backed by the law, we want employers to be more mental health friendly. So hopefully with this in place, we'll be able to go out and get employers to understand the need. I think the problem is the lack of understanding. A lot of employers don't understand the importance of your mental health. They don't understand that if you get too stressed out or you're overworked, you know, your performance can start to dip, you know. So it's knowledge. It's for us to go around to these employers and get them to understand the need to prioritize mental health care in the workplace. And in terms of prioritizing mental health, it's not just about sick days. It's also about providing amenities for mental health care. So we talk about encouraging your staff to have distressing activities that can help them distress even in the workplace. So you could have a gym in the workplace. You can have a canteen that provides healthy
PlayStation.
food. You can have a canteen that provides healthy food within the workplace. You don't have to start searching for where to eat, you know. You can have activities to help them unwind. You'll be amazed to find that certain organizations in Nigeria now have bunk beds within the workplace.
Yeah,
so that when staff feel overwhelmed, they can go to bed and take a nap, take a power nap during the day and come back to work. So it's about getting them to understand these things. There's something there's this sleep now board that exists in Google offices, Facebook offices in California. They're just little small pods where when you're feeling tired and overwhelmed, you just go in there and take a power nap and then you go back to work, you know. So interesting things like that. It just implies to understand the need and then they can push.
So you're saying like provide stress balls, you know.
No, it's not just about leave days. Even within the workplace, there are certain things you can put that can help people distress while they're working hard. You know? Yeah.
All right. So before the call came in, I was wondering what to expect from your subsequent show. Is it because we are on Law FM, we are discussing the mental health bill, or do we have, you know, a wonderful lineup?
So for us, my background in mental health is linked to public health. So I'm a psychiatrist and / public health personnel or expert. So I'll be doing a lot of preventive or promotion of mental health. So we'll be talking about ways to stay positive, you know, ways to maintain healthy psychology. You know, we'll be trashing some psychological issues. You know, people can call in and share whatever dilemma they have, and we're able to trash them through a psychological frame, you know, be able to analyze these issues. And I'll be here to listen. If anyone feels like they need someone to talk to, you know, if they're feeling suicidal or they're feeling low and they need someone to talk to, I'll be available online to help them through that phase or that period of their lives. So that's...
So you're a radiotherapist, that's what you're saying?
Yeah, so this is radiotherapy.
My sister.
Radiotherapy.
My mother. What else are you going to
I'll be your sister, I'll be your mother, I'll be your friend, I'll be your colleague.
Lover.
I your fellow Nigerian. Your fellow Nigerian.
Well, basically, this is positive. That's what I would say, because, you know, we all need someone to lean on, especially when we don't have someone to talk to. So, so back to the mental health bill. I would like you to touch on child protection. Definitely, there's no way a 30-pager will not have to protect, you know, the vulnerable, women, children. Is there anything you would like to discuss?
So I know I told you earlier that there's a Lagos State mental health law which was passed in 2018, and then the federal law has just been passed in 2022. You know,
so Lagos State is ahead.
Yeah, Lagos State is ahead, and kudos to them for that.
Yeah, from social development, I think they've tried so much.
So in terms of the protection of women and children, you know, the federal law was a bit vague on that. You know, they just stated it out that the law will protect women and children, but it wasn't specific on how they intend to protect women and children. But looking at the Lagos State law, I was very impressed with what I found there. The Lagos State law was able to tie to a particular ministry, a particular agency, and in that law it said that the Ministry of Environment, Youth and social development takes charge of affairs that has to do with women and children. So if a child is being maltreated in the home, and a neighbor reports, that ministry has a right to take hold of that child and take custody of that child and do the rightful thing. So that's one lag I saw, but I'm so happy that Lagos State was very specific about it. Lagos State was also very specific about helping people that were homeless, those that were found in public places that didn't have a home. The same ministry has the right to be able to pick them up and take them to shelters that have been provided by the state. So that was very specific, and I was very impressed by that information.
Okay, but I'm just curious. Let's say the average man or the policeman or the enforcer or the department that you've mentioned, like the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Social Development, if they were implementing, wouldn't there be a conflict in both in the law? Like, okay, they feel the federal law supersedes the Lagos State law. I don't know if you have any comments around that.
I think that's a legal question. I think that's a legal question. That has to do with when the federal exists and then there's the state one. I think that's more of a federal, but I've had some personal experiences with children in abused circumstances, and we had to pull out these children from their home environment. And I remember that we collaborated with the Lagos and the federal arm. So back then, many years ago, it's over 10 years, I was a copper back then, and I had a young girl of about 11 years who was being married off, a young Hausa girl that was being married off, and she didn't want to be in that situation. She had threatened suicide and was actually going to commit suicide, but thank God I was able to step in. But I approached the Lagos State Ministry of Women's Affairs, and in the process of creating a team to intervene, they also contacted the federal arm of Women's Affairs. So we worked in collaboration with these two ministries, and we're able to get the young girls out of that home environment into the custody of the government. So I think when such situations arise, they know there's that intergovernmental or it's a sectoral collaboration that comes into play, and they're able to connect and solve the problem.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Jibs. This is your show, so you'll be the one signing out today.
Have we come to the end of the show?
So we're going to have some final words, and then you sign out.
It's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed my co-host today. Thank you so much, Mr. Wale, for co-anchoring with me.
Anytime.
This is the first edition of our show, and we look forward to many more editions. We hope to be able to talk about situations or things we can do to promote our mental health, to help us to continue to remain mentally healthy. We're not going to be focused on disorders or pathology, but more on positive psychology as it pertains to the general population.
We have a call coming in. Let's see if we can squeeze in this caller. Hello, good morning. Can you turn down the volume of your radio, please? Please, your name and where you calling from? Good morning, please. Your name and where you calling from?
Hello,
please?
good morning. I'm calling from Surulere.
We didn't get your name.
Hello?
Your name, please.
Hello, good morning. I'm calling from Surulere. My name is Azizat.
Azizat. Okay. Azizat, Dr. Jibs is here.
Good morning, Azizat.
Hello?
Good morning.
Good morning. I have a question for Dr. Jibs.
Okay, proceed.
Hello?
We can hear you. You can go on with your question.
How can mental illness be prevented in our society in general?
How can what?
Mental health be prevented in our society in general?
Prevented. How can mental health problems be prevented in our society in general?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Aziza. But before I answer the question, I want you to understand that there's a difference between mental health and mental health disorders. Mental health is a part of our health. We all have mental health. you can divide your health into physical and mental. Your mental health is that part on the inside, which you call your psychological, your emotional, and your social well-being, which is the way you think and feel on the inside that shows in your behavior on the outside. And your physical health is more about that part which you see and pay more attention to. So mental health is a term that pertains to every one of us. However, mental disorder is different. Mental disorders are a deviation from the norm. So when your mental health starts to dwindle, when you're not feeling very happy, or you're unable to, you feel very extremely tired, or you're very irritable, or you start to get moody, and so on and so forth. It comes in different variations. That can be like a deviation from the norm.
So a question would be how to prevent mental health disorders. So
when you talk about how to, that is a topic for a full show. That's a topic for a full show. I can't answer that question in 2 seconds.
Well, you could give her 1 or 2 tips.
What I would just say is that you have to be intentional about your mental health. You need to prioritize your mental health. Yes, you need to do things that are good for your mental health. I say, if you find something you enjoy that makes you feel good, that makes you relax, try to incorporate that into your activities every week. Most of us work Monday to Friday. We get into that Lagos traffic. It's a mega city. It's fast. It's moving. So as an individual, you have to find ways to slow down and relax. So I say, by the time you get to midweek, by the time you get to Wednesday, look for activities to help you unwind. Look for things to do that help you relax. And once you're doing that intentionally, over time you find that you're less likely to break down.
Okay. To Jibs.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Jibs, you're on your closing remark.
Okay, thank you so much. My name remains Dr. Olayinka Jibuna from the Freudian Center. This show is being powered by the Freudian Center. If you do want to speak to a qualified therapist, a psychologist, or a psychiatrist after the show, you can reach us on 0809 60075. 0809 60075, or you can reach us on info@freudiancenter.com. We're also on all social media platforms at Freudian_center. Thank you so much for listening.
All right, signing out. Thank you.
This is the Legit Therapist on Law FM 103.9. This program is